Okay, here's our pocket accordion video. So this is the pocket accordion. I made a little soft cover for it. And so when you open it up, we have like 8 little pockets, or actually I guess 6 little pockets that you can put things in. And then we have a soft cover. It's actually pretty similar to what we did for the flag book, but it attaches differently, and I made a little tab that closes it up. This book is a book made by Hetty Kyle, who's like this amazing paper engineer. She also is credited, I believe, with creating the flag book structure. And so, yeah, like if you do have that book or get it out of the library, The Art of the Fold, the instructions for this book are in there also. So this is what we need. The materials are really simple. So we need one really big sheet of paper. This like doesn't even fit into the whole camera. But this sheet of paper is about 14 by 25 inches. So it is a full sheet of paper that was like originally 19 by 25. And I cut it down just a little bit so that it would have like a slightly longer proportion. So it ends up being kind of like a longer sheet of paper. And I found that that proportion worked better. If you use the full sheet as is, like if of a 19 by 25-ish type of paper, sheet of paper, then the accordion, the pocket accordion, the resulting pocket accordion is like really tall and skinny. So yeah, just to get kind of like a shorter, like this is still like pretty tall and skinny, but cutting the big paper down to like a longer proportion really helps with that. And then I have a piece of paper I'm going to use for my cover. This is like a cover weight paper. I should say this paper is like a text weight paper. So I think something that is a lightweight or like at least something very easy to fold will work best for the accordion part. And then the cover part can be like a cover weight or one of those like kind of medium weight papers that's a little heavier than text weight but lighter than cover weight. Something like that will work great for the cover. And I haven't really cut this down to size yet because I'm actually going to wait until after I create the pocket accordion, and then I'm going to cut this down based on what I get after I make my folds. So this is essentially a book that you can make from one sheet of paper, which is really cool. We're going to start by folding an 8-section accordion book using that method that we learned to fold like a long strip into an accordion. So I'm going to fold the strip in half. And if you can, we talked about grain, direction. If you can, I mean, if you're using a text weight, it might not matter that much, the grain, but if you can manage to have a sheet of paper that's like going to be in the short direction of this like longer proportion, that will work better. But as you'll see, we will end up having folds that go in both directions. So I don't really think it is a big deal, whichever way the grain of your paper is. Okay, so I folded my piece in half. My strip is folded in half. Now I'm going to fold each of these halves in half. So I'm just taking the cut edge and meeting it up with the folded side over here. And then I'm going to flip it and do the same thing with the other half. And then when I open this up, I have 4 sections so far. So yeah, it's a little hard to fit into the whole camera, but 1, 2, 3, 4 sections. But I need to make 8, so I want to go for one more round. So I'm going to invert this center fold that's pointing down So I'm going to invert that so that it's pointing up. And then I'm going to start from this end and just fold each of these sections in half. So folding the cut edge up to the first mountain folds. And then I'm going to take the mountain fold and match it to the next mountain fold here. And then let's have two more sections. So mountain fold to mountain fold again. And then for the final section, it's going to be the cut edge to the mountain fold. Okay, so right now we have this really like awkwardly tall and skinny accordion, but we do have our 8 sections, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And now we're going to, at each corner, take that corner and fold it into the valley fold that's here. So I'm not overlapping, I'm not going over the corner. I'm just taking this edge and just folding it so that it fits into that valley fold. And we're going to do that on all 4 corners. Okay, we have all 4 corners folded in that way. Now we just need to mark the center. And an easy way to do that is to just like take the whole sheet, flatten it out, and then just roll it over. So I'm not folding it. I'm just rolling it, matching up the top and bottom edges here. And then at the center where this roll is happening, I'm just going to press my finger down on that center fold. And that's just going to give us, when we open our sheet back up, a little tiny crease right here at the center. And then we're going to just mark off a spot above and below that little crease. And if you want, you can use a ruler if you want to keep it like under control, but I think you can also just like mark and mark. But if you want a measurement, let's see, like I think about even a quarter inch, quarter to half inch is probably pretty good. Okay, and these are just going to be like kind of guides, because the next step is to fold the edges of our paper to meet up with these marks. So I'm going to take the bottom edge and I'm going to fold it to the top mark right here. And you can also, like, you have the folds that you made before. That is a good guideline to know like when your paper is straight, like just match up the folds. And then just crease it with your bone folder when you're happy with that. And then I'm going to flip this over and I'm going to open this first flap. And then I'm going to take this edge and fold it to, again, like the mark that's further away from me. So I'm like going over the first mark and going to the second mark. Okay. And then we want to make the top edge go down first, and then the bottom edge is going to go down next. So the one that's on the bottom, or like closer to me, is overlapping the first half that we folded down just a little bit. And now we're going to fold our accordion. This is our accordion. We're going to fold it up, starting over at one of the ends. I'm going to fold this so that the very first section that now kind of formed this triangular pocket, I'm folding that in, and then I'm just going to zigzag. So we are kind of folding against some of the folds we made, but just, you know, do an alternating accordion fold. And it will work out. And so then when you get to the last section, again, we're to the other triangular pocket. Make sure you're folding that so that the triangular pocket is going down, like to the inside of the book. And then it's a good idea to just reinforce these folds, since we did kind of like reverse folds, and we have folds going in both directions on the paper. So just reinforce your folds. And this is essentially our pocket accordion. So you can take things already and like put them into these pockets. So it's super simple to make. Now to make this cover, this is the reason. So I'm starting with a piece of cover paper. This is like cardstock that just has a print, like a unregistered print on one side. And I want to just double check that it is long enough to become the cover. So in this example, you can see like we have part of the cover flap that goes inside the front and the back cover. And then we have the front cover, the spine, and the back cover. So I need it to be at least a little bit more than 4 times the width of the book. So 4 times for like the front, the inside, front, and back, and then you know, adding maybe 1/4 to 1/2 inch extra to accommodate for the spine. So I'm just going to take my book and just double check by just like roughly measuring with the width of the book. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I have plenty of extra here. So I want to start by cutting the sheet of paper down to the height of my book pages. So I'm going to flip it over onto the back so I can see where I'm marking. So I'm just going to take the book itself that I folded. I'm going to line it up with one edge of the paper here, and I'm going to just make a pencil mark where I want to cut my paper down to. So the exact height of my book pages will be good. And I'm going to just mark that in a few places along the length here, because the sheet of paper is too big for me to use my triangle to cut this. So it's a little too long, or the triangle is a little too short. So I'm going to need to use a different ruler. So I'm just going to make a few marks on the paper. So I'll make another mark here. And a third one here. And then, so just like at least 3 pencil marks you want to make. And then I can take those pencil marks and line them up using my ruler. So I'm kind of connecting the 3 points that I made, and then I'm just going to cut the paper. And now this should be the correct height. So it matches the height of the book. And then for folding, so we're going to put all of our folds first. We're going to need to measure the spine of our book. So since the spine, it's a little bit thicker, so I want to get like a more accurate measurement. So I'm going to take a piece of scrap paper. So any kind of little scrap paper, I always save these strips for this purpose. And we're going to fold, just put a fold in that strip anywhere. So we'll have like kind of an L fold like that. And then I'm going to take the book at like what would be the spine edge, or just, you know, one of the, it's pretty much a uniform thickness all the way around, but we'll do at the one of the long folded edges. And you're going to sit the book into that little fold that you made. And then we're going to just fold this over the top of the book. And then I'm just going to crease with my like fingernails along the top edge of the spine here. And then when I remove it, I'm just going to reinforce that fold a bit because it's like a little bit of a soft fold. It's kind of like curved, but we want like a nice sharp fold. So I'm just reinforcing by just like really making sure that fold is folded. And then you can kind of see that we're left with these two folds here that represent the thickness of the spine of the book. And so that fits like right around the folded edge of the book. Okay, and then we're going to start folding with the one end of this. So I'm going to start by making the flap for the inside cover. And like you can see that the cover flap is going to kind of insert itself underneath the folds that we made for the accordion book. So it inserts right into there. So this is going to have to be, you know, like it's nice if it's the full width here because we have this triangular fold and we want it to really fit all the way in there. And then it gives you kind of a nice little like end sheet like detail there too. So I'm going to take the book itself, and you can actually start by inserting one end of this into that little pocket that's formed. We might have to trim our edges a little bit. Okay, so if you're having a little trouble getting it to go in there right now, let's just use this as a measurement. So I'm gonna just kind of just put it into the first fold. And I'm just going to mark, again, I'm gonna use the back so I can see. I'm just gonna put a pencil mark here on the edge of the page. And then we can make a fold. And I'm just gonna line up my triangle here with my pencil marks and just score next to the triangle. And then I'm gonna go underneath the page and just push the paper up against the straight edge from underneath. And then I'm gonna fully fold that over. Just make sure that the top and bottom edges are aligned. You can kind of like shift it into place if you need to even that out a little bit, and then just give it a crease with your bone folder. And I'm gonna trim like just a little bit off of the corners. So let's say from the fold that I just made, kind of like something like this. So that should make it go into the pockets a little bit easier. It doesn't have to be like super extreme. I'm actually gonna make it a little shallower than what I just drew even. Around so it doesn't slip. You can see that I just kind of angled the edges of the flap a bit. So then it should go into the pocket a little easier. There we go. And then that's going to fold around to the front, or yeah, I suppose this could be the front of the cover. And then I'm just turning it over and I'm going to mark where now the book pages come to on the right side here. That's going to be the first fold for the spine. So I'm just putting a pencil mark just like here at the top edge. And then I'm going to take this, well, I could just open the book up actually, I guess. Well, actually, I'm going to take it off because it's going to get in the way of the triangle. Okay, so then I'm going to make a fold with my triangle. Again, just lining that up with the top edge of my paper, whichever of the long edges you prefer. And then I'm going to score and fold from underneath. And then fully fold that over and give it a crease. And now I'm gonna take that little spine measurement that I made, and I'm just making some pencil marks where the folds are so that I can see them better, and hopefully maybe you can see them in the video. So I'm gonna try to make them dark, but you just wanna make sure you can see where you're gonna be, like what your measurements are. So I have the two folds that I made, and I just marked them with pencil to make them more visible. So I'm gonna line up one of those marks. So my two folds are over here on the left side. So I'm gonna line up the left side mark with the first spine fold that I just made. And then I'm going to make a new pencil mark at the right fold on my spine measurement. And then I'm going to remove that and make this next fold. And I like positioning it so that the folds I just made are on the left side, because now when I put my triangle down, the triangle is covering up like this fold, and that's actually going to help make it a little bit easier to make the second fold, because sometimes it can be a little tricky to make two folds that are very close together. And if you are left-handed, it might be easier to switch this around. So if you're a lefty, because then you would be holding your triangle with your right hand and scoring with your left hand. And then I want to crease the new fold. And, you know, of course, because this fold, the first fold is a little bit more creased, the paper is just going to want to fold there instead of at the new fold. So you kind of are going to have to like force it. So I'm just like kind of gently pulling this flap and like pushing at the spine to get the paper to fold at the new fold. And then once you're happy with where it is, you can give it a good crease, and that should make it work a little better. And then you can just double check that this is fitting in here nicely. So you want to see something like that. So it's just nesting into the spine. You don't want it to feel way too tight, and you don't want to have a lot of extra space in there either. So you just want a snug fit, but you don't want to feel like you really have to like push this in there. That means it's a little too narrow. So now I'm going to just put this all back together. So I'm just going to put the cover flap inside of the triangular pocket of the pocket accordion, and I can like fold it all the way up now. And we're just going to make the last flap for the back cover. And so I'm going to fold it all the way up. So now I can use this flap that we made first to measure the new flap. So I'm just going to put a pencil mark so that it's about even with where I'm seeing this flap come up to. And then I'm going to take this out again so that it's a little easier to work with here. And then we're going to line up the triangle and do a scored fold one more time. And so now I just need to trim this extra amount that I have so that it fits into the pocket. So you could either like measure, take a measurement here of what the pocket width is, which mine is about 3 inches. And so I could measure my grid lines on my cutting mat. So I have the fold here, and then I'm going to cut it at 1, 2, 3 inches. So that should come in and like pretty close to the spine folds here. And it looks pretty even. And then I'm going to do the same thing with angling the top and bottom edges. And so then this can just tuck right in. The second side is a little tricky, but you can kind of just carefully manipulate the flaps to get it in there. And so this is the basic cover, so you could stop here. But this one also has this little tab that we can create, so I'll show you how that works. So I'm going to take this apart again. So let me take this off so you can kind of see what's going on in here too. So you can see that the tab is actually just cut right out of the cover itself. So it's not like an extra piece that we have to leave on our paper or attach at the edge. It's actually like cut out of the cover flap at the folds for the flap. So on the inside of the paper, so I'm just going to point out some things. So this is the spine right here. And this is the front cover. And this is the back cover. Okay, so I'm doing this at the fold for the back cover. And I'm just going to compare it with the example so you can see that this flap, or this little tab, I should call it, is cut out of the section that's closest to me of the cover itself. So this is the part that folds into the inside of the cover. So we're going to create like this shape here and cut it out. So you can like find the center of your book cover, which you can either figure out a measurement, like so measure it and find the halfway point. And then another way that I just really like to do this because it's quick and easy is take a little scrap strip of paper, and we're going to cut this down to the height of the cover. So this is the height of the cover now. And then you can just fold it in half. And now this halfway fold is the halfway point of the height of the cover. And so I'm going to make a mark. It's so hard to see that for me. Okay, so I made a pencil mark on here so I could see where it was when it was unfolded. And so I have it lined up along the height here, and I'm just going to make a pencil mark to mark the center. So this is my center. And then this can be like, I mean, I think maybe I made this an inch wide or so. It's about an inch wide. So you can take your ruler, and from the center mark that you just made, you can measure like a ½ inch on each side. And you can also like adjust this to whatever you want. Like if you make a, taller book, you might want it to be a little wider. You can adjust it for your needs. And then the length of the one that I made here is 1½ inches. And so this, you want it to be able to wrap around the thickness of the book. So the length of this, it wraps around the, the front edge, the foredge of our book where it opens, and then it also tucks in. So it does need to have enough length to get around the thickness. So if your book is thicker than mine is, you might want to make the tab a little bit longer. So that's going to help determine the length of the tab. And then you just need enough of the length also for it to tuck in to the little slot we're going to cut, and then like just be able to hold itself in there. So I'm going to go with 1½ inches again. But again, you can adjust that as you need to. So I'm gonna measure from the fold. I'm gonna just measure 1.5 inches. And then I'm just gonna draw a line so that I know it's gonna be straight. So I'm just squaring that up. And I drew a light pencil line there. And we can also extend the center mark down so I can see the center here. And I kind of like that little like angled shape because again, I think it makes it a little easier to tuck in too. So maybe this end could be like 3/4 of an inch. That's what I need the first one. Okay. So, you can again like use the center point and then just make this the equal amount of equal measurement to each side. So I'm gonna do like 3/8 of an inch on each side will give me 3/4 of an inch. But again, choose your own measurements. And then I'm just gonna connect these points here so that I can just see what the shape looks like and make sure that I'm happy with like how it looks there. So this is where I'm going to cut also the solid lines here. You could also like make it into like a cute little like some other kind of shape if you wanted to. So I'm going to cut this out. So I'm leaving the fold edge is intact, of course, and then I'm just cutting along these other 3 pencil lines that I drew. Okay, and then you want to just, when you cut any of them, just be really mindful of not extending too far past the like corners here and here, because then you will end up having those cuts in the actual like upper flap of your book. But that's what we want this to look like. And then I'm gonna put this back around the book to get an idea of where I need to cut the little slit that it's gonna fit into. So I'm gonna put all of this back together again. Sorry for all the on and off of the cover coming on and off so many times. And so then with the book closed, we also want this to fold around. So we can also make a pencil mark for that. So I'm just going to make a light pencil mark here at the foredge of my book, so that I can fold the tab. I'm just going to untuck the back cover only so that I can just make that fold really quick. And so I'm only doing this on the tab itself. So just be careful again, like not to fold your whole cover. So I'm just folding the tab. And then back. So now this folds around the foredge just like a little more neatly. And then let's say like in order for this to catch well, I'm gonna make this cut in the front cover a little bit kind of close to the foredge of the book, so maybe about 1/4 inch away. I'm just like kind of just looking and seeing where I think I should put it. But you want to make a pencil mark at both ends of your tab. So I'm making like a dot that should be really close to where the actual tab is, like as close as possible. And then with the front cover, we want to take the front cover out of the pocket now. And so I've just opened this up. And then if you have like an awl for punching holes or like a sewing needle, like a thick sewing needle, I'm going to poke 2 holes where I made those pencil marks. So it's a little hard to see. Oh yeah, it's going to be right here too. So also make sure that if you keep your book, you can just take this off completely, or just at least make sure that it's all folded up so that when it's down like this, we're not accidentally poking or cutting through our pages. And so we're gonna poke a hole at the pencil marks that we just made. And so this is just like the needle size hole. And then when we cut there, we're gonna kind of connect those points. So it's a little bit hard to see. So I have poked a hole right here and right here. And then I'm going to cut just a straight line connecting those two little holes that I poked. And the reason why we poke the holes is because it stops this cut, since there's going to be this little tab that will kind of go in and out of the slot there. Poking those two holes helps the cut to have an end point, so it doesn't like continue to tear every time you like open and close the tab. So I just cut with my X-Acto this little opening, so just a straight cut between the two holes that I poked. And then when we put this all back together again for the last time, I think, upside down, make sure that your pocket is in the right orientation, so that the book is functional. Cover. So now I can take the little tab, and you also kind of do have to end up like crunching this up a little bit, depending on the paper. Like my paper is a little on the stiff side, and so I'm kind of just like, this is like kind of all like wonky and getting folded, but that's okay. So it'll make it a little more flexible to be able to fit in there. So then that will fit into that slot, and it's a little bit hard to separate the two layers immediately. There we go. So that's how that fits in there. So you have like a nice little soft cover with a little like clasp, which is super cute. And so that's like the pocket accordion. And there's a lot of options we could do for covers for this. So this is just like one option. But yeah, I really like how this cover works for this particular book, and it gives you this little like pop of color if you're using something colorful when you open the book and at the front and back. Yeah, so I hope that you enjoy making this book. Thanks, guys.